Welcome to another edition of Table Talk to the Mayor. This week we have a special edition where we'll be talking to the CAO of Chatham-Kent, Don Shropshire. Good afternoon, Don.
Hi, Greg.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Very well. A lot of people know what the CAO does, and a lot of people don't in Chatham-Kent. Give us a quick summary as to what your responsibilities are for the municipality.
So in some communities, the CAO is referred to as the city manager. So basically it's responsible for the overall effective and efficient operation of all municipal services.
Okay. And you oversee everything, I mean, from the police department, fire department?
Well, we have a number of departments. The police department actually reports directly to a police board. So the fire chief is hired and reporting to the police board. The fire service is actually one of our municipal departments. So it does vary. There's a few other separate standalone services like Integris, as an example, is a separate corporation, although they have a very close working relationship with the municipality, similarly with the public utility service. But the municipal services we do are roads and engineering, our infrastructure, our health and family services. We also have a wide group of community development services that deal with public libraries and planning, building and licensing. Economic development is certainly a major focus for Chatham-Kent right now as we're trying to retool our economy. We have a variety of different services that we're offering in that regard. So yeah, I'd say it's a fairly wide range, but there are a number of services that sort of link in with us, but not directly reporting to the CAO office.
Okay, thank you. As well, you have a municipal services review that's underway, and what can you tell us about that right now, just general as to what's going on?
Well, our big challenge, I think a lot of our residents know this, is that we're going through an economic retooling. There's been a lot of jobs in manufacturing, especially the automotive industry, that have been, transferred to other locations and so on. So we've got a lot of folks that are looking to retool not only their own careers, but also our economy is retooling overall. It's put some financial pressures on the municipality. One of the largest financial pressures is we have a lot of existing infrastructure in Chatham-Kent. Our roads, our bridges, our drainage system is very extensive because of our agricultural industry. That infrastructure costs money to maintain and to reinvest in. Currently we have about $660 million worth of assets or infrastructure in Chatham-Kent. And in order to maintain that current level of assets, we should be investing about $53.5 million per year. We've been investing about $35 million a year, so there's about an $18 million deficit. That's really the largest single financial challenge that we have to overcome. So when we look at service review, what we're really trying to do is to get to a place where we're financially sustainable. So we're doing about it in a number of different ways. We're looking at our financial infrastructure, our infrastructure. We're trying to be more efficient how we build it. We're also trying to look at all of our other municipal services and say, do we have the right mix of services and scope of services? Or should we be putting some more of our resources into that infrastructure deficit to try and address that? So it's really a bit of a balancing act, and that's really what a lot of the service review is about. It's trying to make sure that we have a community that has the right infrastructure, but also the right quality of life to attract citizens and keep them here and have a good quality of life and a good environment and infrastructure to support our workforce. So that's really the big challenge on the financial side.
I see. So it was, what were the numbers again? It was 18 million separation. It was...
There's about $660 million worth of infrastructure. Now to invest that year over year, we should be reinvesting about $53 million a year. It's the same thing as if you have something like, a house, everybody that's a homeowner knows you have to keep reinvesting every year. One year it's going to be a replacement for the roof, and it's the same thing with our municipal infrastructure. So things like redoing our roadways or replacing bridge work and so on. Every year we should be investing about $53.5 million.
Just to sustain what's there?
Just to sustain the existing infrastructure, and that's without any additions or enhancements. So we've been doing about $35 million a year, and that's about an $18 million gap. So what we're trying to do with our service review is find a way to overcome that, to make sure that we are financially sustainable in the long run, and also just to look at, what are the types of investments do we want to make to help that retooling of our economy, to help put people back to work in industries where they're going to be working in the future, and that requires a certain level of investment sometimes as well.
Okay. And how long does it take to get the services review information to such that it can be applied?
Well, it's a fairly extensive process. We have about 130 business units within the municipality, and I mentioned some of them previously. So what we're doing is we're chunking it out in 9-week blocks. We're going through the first phase 1 and 2. We've basically taken an inventory of all the services and built a data set where we can have comparable information to share amongst all of those 130 plus business units. And now we've gone through and our senior management team has evaluated where we think we can get some extra-additional economies, or where we might look for some savings. And those will be the first 15 business units that we'll be looking at. We'll go through each of those in about a 9-week review process. We'll be coming back to council probably sometime early in the new year. It could be late February, early March. It'll depend on our budget process, how we have to schedule that. But about every 9 to 10 weeks we'll be coming back to council with further recommendations. So some people may have heard that we've got a 3-year plan. That's to go through all 130 services. We're not going to wait 3 years to make some of the changes. If we see some changes that can be made, it'll be every 2 to 3 months that we'll actually be making those recommendations to council. So that's really the goal ahead of us.
I see. So it's a 3-year process, but it's split up into 9-week segments, such that it's not going to take 3 years to get all the information.
No, we're looking at maybe 2 months.
Right.
So anything that would take 3 years, I mean, it would be out of date before we even started, and that would be silly. So we've got to accelerate that sort of a process. But really, what this is the equivalent of is basically reviewing our base budget, and really we should be trying to do that as a goal once for every service in a term of council. So every 4 years you should be going through and making sure that you do sort of a more in-depth look, making sure that we've got the right services at the right service levels, and that's appropriate for the taxpayer.
There was talk about a third party being involved with service review to perhaps save more money involved. That wasn't the selection or the option selected. Is there any more savings that could have been done that way?
Let me just clarify. We have managers that are paid to manage the service. That's who we're going to first of all. The people that are actually working in the area, not only the managers but the frontline staff, often they know best how to actually do things more efficiently or effectively. So that's where we're going. In addition to that, we're actually inviting some external parties to come to the table and review it as well. So we're looking for an extra set of lenses. An example might be if we're doing a review of our fleet management service, because there are a number of cars and vehicles that we have for things like the fire service and so on. What we want to do is to go out to the community to see if there's somebody else that has expertise in managing a large fleet and get them to come into the process and have a different lens on it, to have an outside set of eyes that come in and challenge us to do things more efficiently or effectively. So what we really want to get to is best practices, and our existing managers at managing the service, they've got a role to play there, but it's also great if we can actually have some other folks come in, take part in the process, and make sure that we're looking at things the most efficient way possible. So that's really the goal in the whole service
I see.
review.
Okay. And what has been the biggest challenge for you so far as the CAO of the municipality of Chatham-Kent?
Well, we talked a little bit about it. You're always trying to make the right balance. I mean, at the one time you're trying to make sure that we're modest with any sort of tax increases, but there's also a number of investments that we want to make for the long-term future of the community. The big ones are providing the right sort of climate to attract businesses to Chatham-Kent, or to help our existing businesses grow, and that's probably even more important. We've got about 80% of our new job growth will come from existing businesses that are already in Chatham-Kent. So how do you invest the right amount of money while still maintaining taxes at the appropriate level? Another big challenge for us is making sure that we balance our population. One of our goals is to try and be the fastest growing community in southwestern Ontario, and yet in the last 2 census reports we've actually dropped about 4.2% of our population. And that's pretty common in Ontario. A lot of folks are, as we retool the economy, people are going elsewhere to look for work, or sometimes you're going off in pursuit of education. So what we want to do is to balance that need for maintaining our taxes at a reasonable level, but also investing in the community so it's attractive to attract businesses, to keep them here, to grow new businesses, and also to have our population stabilized. And that's especially true with young adults, where they're looking for a high quality of life at the same time as they're looking for a good job. So those would be a couple of the major challenges we have in front of us. The third and final challenge is we've got an aging population. That's also, we've got some concerns around the public health issues, things like we've got very high levels of obesity and cardiopulmonary heart disease. So what we're trying to do is to work with our public health folks to try and encourage people to make good lifestyle choices. We want a growing population, but we also want them to be healthy, and that's going to be good for the overall workforce and economy as well. So it's striking the right balance is the biggest challenge, I think, for both council and also the CAO's office.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mr. Shropshire. It's a joy to talk to you.
Great, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll see you again next week on Table Talk with the Mayor. Have a good week.